Maya didn't even make it past the front steps before the humiliation began. 30 seconds into her first morning at Brookstone Academy, she was already frozen in place, staring at the director's hand blocking her path like a barrier made of pure contempt. "Stop right there," Richard Coleman barked, loud enough for a cluster of arriving students to turn and stare. "You don't belong here." Maya blinked, confused, tightening her grip on the strap of her frayed backpack. "Sir, I'm new. Today is my first." "New," he snapped, laughing under his breath as if she had told a joke. "We don't take walk-ins, sweetheart. This is not that type of school." A few students whispered, amused. One girl snickered. Maybe she's lost. Maya's throat tightened. "I'm not lost. I'm enrolled." Coleman leaned closer, lowering his voice just enough to sound poisonous. "Enrolled? Wearing that?" He glanced at her worn hoodie, shoes with peeling rubber, hair pulled back quickly because she'd barely slept. "You expect me to believe a student from Brookstone shows up like this?" "Sir, my father." "Your father should have taken you somewhere appropriate," Coleman cut in. "Now turn around and leave before you cause a scene." His voice rose intentionally on the last words, ensuring everyone heard. A boy laughed behind her. Someone whispered, "Why is she pretending?" Maya felt heat climbing her neck, her eyes burning. "Please," she tried again, forcing her breath to stay steady. "My name is Maya Thompson. I'm in the 10th grade. You can check the system." "No," Coleman said simply. "I don't need to look anything up. I can tell who doesn't fit here. We maintain standards." He gestured dismissively at the gate. "Out. Now." Shock punched through her chest. Students had stopped walking entirely, forming a half-circle of curiosity and disbelief. Not for him, but for her. Not one stepped forward. Not one said, "Let her speak." Maya swallowed hard, feeling her voice collapse inward. "I'm telling the truth." Coleman chuckled, cold and confident. "Everyone who wants something for free says that." He pointed again, sharper this time. "Get off the property." And just like that, with dozens of eyes judging her clothes, her skin, her presence, Maya turned around because she couldn't hold back the tears any longer. She didn't run. She didn't speak. She just walked away, head down, listening as a girl behind her murmured, "How embarrassing." And the worst part wasn't the humiliation. The silence inside the Thompson residence was different that afternoon. Not the peaceful kind, the heavy, unnatural quiet that settles when something is deeply wrong. Maya sat at the edge of the massive leather sofa, her backpack still on, shoes still laced, hands clenched in her lap. The house was spotless, warm-toned, tastefully understated, just like her father liked it. But she felt like a stranger inside it. Derek Thompson walked in from the kitchen with 2 glasses of water. He had taken off his suit jacket, but the rest of his appearance was as polished as always. Crisp shirt, cufflinks, a Rolex that never shone too brightly. He noticed the way she wouldn't look at him. He didn't ask anything, not yet. He simply sat down beside her and waited. "It was bad," Maya whispered finally. Her voice trembled, not from tears, but from holding them back too long. "They didn't even check the computer. He just looked at me and decided." Derek closed his eyes. A long breath. "Who?" "The director. Coleman." She looked up now, only because she needed to see if her father believed her. "He humiliated me. In front of everyone. Told me I didn't belong. Said I looked like I was trying to get something for free." Something in Derek's expression shifted, just slightly. A muscle in his jaw moved, then froze. He stood up slowly, walked toward the window, and placed both hands on the sill. Outside, the sun painted the yard in soft gold, but the air inside the room grew heavier. Did anyone try to stop him? No, her voice broke. Not one person. They just watched. Derek turned around. His voice was low, calm, but something deeper vibrated beneath. "I paid that school $6 million in the last 3 years. New labs, scholarships, infrastructure, and they treated you like a trespasser." He looked at her and she finally saw it. Pain. Not anger, not pride. Pain. They tried to erase you before you even started. Maya wiped her eyes roughly. I don't want to go back. Derek stepped closer, kneeling in front of her. You will. Not to prove anything to them, but because you belong anywhere you choose to stand. His voice hardened. And they're going to remember that. The next morning, before the first bell could ring, the engine's roar pierced through Brookstone Academy's air like a war cry. A Ferrari SF-90 Straightdale, blood red and gleaming like vengeance, pulled into the front drive with the force of a spotlight in a dark theater. Behind it, 2 Cadillac Escalades followed in silent formation, blacked out, imposing. Every student stopped. Conversations died. Phones came out. No one had ever seen anything like it. The car door opened. Maya stepped out. Same hoodie, same shoes, same backpack. But she stood tall this time, chin lifted, shoulders steady. Silence spread around her like a wave. Then Derek stepped out of the SUV. The recognition was immediate. A gasp rippled through the students. Faces changed. A few even stepped back instinctively. They had seen that man on magazine covers, Forbes rankings, keynote stages. Derek Thompson, tech visionary, billionaire, the father of the girl they watched get humiliated. Director Coleman stood near the entrance, frozen. As Derek locked eyes with him, he didn't raise his voice or point a finger. He simply said, "We need to talk. Now." In the administration office, the silence was tighter than the walls. Derek placed a folder on the polished desk and sat without waiting for permission. Coleman remained standing, pale and trying to control the sweat above his lip. Here is proof of my daughter's enrollment. Tuition paid in full. Digital confirmation from your own system. Dated emails from your registrar. Timestamped. Verified. There was no error. He slid another page forward. And here, internal communication between your admissions team. Retrieved legally through my firm's AI filter after a keyword scan flagged Maya's name. Coleman's face twitched. Derek continued. Would you like to read the message, or shall I? He flipped the page without waiting. She doesn't reflect the image Brookstone aims to project. Her file should be deprioritized. Possibly lost in the system. This school is built on a standard, and we can't afford to change it. Derek looked up, his eyes cold and sharp as glass. You didn't just ignore her. You chose to erase her. Coleman tried to speak. Failed. Tried again. That message that wasn't meant or not, it happened. Under your leadership. On your watch. Derek stood now, slowly, with the same control he used to address boards of directors and hostile investors. I've supported this institution for nearly a decade. Funded your STEM programs. Donated to your scholarships. Built your digital labs. Half your infrastructure runs on Thompson software. Effective immediately. I'm withdrawing every cent. You can't, Coleman sputtered, but Derek didn't even flinch. Watch me. Outside the room, whispers had become currents. A student had recorded Maya's initial humiliation on their phone. The video leaked. Went viral. The story was spreading, not just in school, not just in Orlando, but across the country. The news outlets caught it by noon. Brookstone Academy accused of racial profiling. Billionaire donor pulls funding after daughter humiliated. By the time the school board convened that afternoon, the vote was unanimous. Richard Coleman was removed from his position. No severance. No ceremony. No apology. Maya watched from the hallway window as he left the campus with his head down, no one walking with him. And she didn't feel triumph. She felt stillness. Like a storm had passed, but something inside her was permanently different. When she walked into class the next day, people moved aside. Some smiled too much. Others avoided her eyes. But no one, not one person, dared to question her right to be there. The aftermath was quieter than expected. No one spoke to Maya directly that first week, not because they didn't want to, but because they didn't know how. Shame has a way of silencing people. The same students who had laughed, stared, whispered, now dropped their gazes when she passed. Teachers offered polite smiles. The front desk staff suddenly remembered her name without needing her to spell it. The irony was suffocating. Respect born from exposure, not humanity. What stung the most wasn't the sudden kindness. It was how performative it all felt. Maya didn't want revenge. She didn't want fame. She had just wanted to be seen. Now she was, but through the warped lens of public outrage. Her face had become a symbol. People online called her the girl who stood tall. Some praised her bravery. Others made it about her father's money. None of them really knew her. None of them had sat with her alone in the lunchroom during that first miserable hour when she'd felt like nothing. Not one person had reached for her hand when Coleman humiliated her. That couldn't be erased with retweets. In class, she stayed quiet, observing, listening. A few brave students tried to talk to her, mostly out of guilt. One girl offered to sit with her during lunch. Another boy complimented her coding project, but it felt awkward, rehearsed. She appreciated the effort, but didn't need their pity. What she wanted was something no one could give her, the innocence of her first day, untouched. That version of her, excited and nervous, was gone. At home, things were changing too. Derek had become more protective, always asking how her day went, making time between meetings to be around. But he also looked tired, like the fight had aged him. Maya caught him standing by the kitchen island late one night, just staring at nothing, his phone glowing on the counter. "You okay?" she asked softly. Derek nodded, then hesitated. "Do you know why I never used power to intimidate people?" She shook her head. He sighed. "Because it's easy. Too easy. And it changes you. Turns you into what you hate." She leaned against the doorway. "Do you think we became that?" "No," he said after a pause. "But I think we stood on the edge of it." A silence settled between them. He walked over, placed a hand on her shoulder. "You're strong. Stronger than I was at your age. And I hate that you had to prove it this way." Maya looked up. "I don't want people to respect me because I was in a viral video. Or because you're my dad. I want to earn it." He smiled finally. "Then take the space you deserve. Not the one they allow you." At school, things shifted slowly. One teacher, Ms. Rivera, the English instructor, pulled Maya aside one afternoon. "I saw what happened. I didn't speak up. And I should have. I'm sorry. It wasn't performative. It was quiet, honest. And that apology meant more than all the headlines." Maya nodded. "Thank you." Word got out that the school had hired a diversity consultant. New training. New leadership. None of that changed the past. But it was a start. A group of students created a committee to review how new applicants were treated. Maya was asked to be part of it. She didn't answer right away. She wanted to say yes, but only if it was real, not just optics. She went home that night and asked her father, "If I do this, does that make me complicit in their cleanup?" Derek looked at her for a long moment. "It makes you the architect of what comes next." And that was when she realized power wasn't just something you held. It was something you chose how to use. 2 months later, Brookstone Academy was no longer the same school. The logo hadn't changed. The uniforms were still pressed, the lawns still obsessively trimmed, and the architecture still whispered wealth. But something underneath had shifted, something invisible but undeniable. And Maya? Maya no longer walked with her head down. She no longer counted her steps or avoided eye contact or calculated how little space she could take up. She walked with quiet certainty now, not arrogance, not pride, just presence. She existed without apology. One Wednesday morning, she entered the main auditorium where the Student Equity Committee was meeting for the first time. She had said yes. Not for them, for herself. To rebuild, to reshape, to make space where it didn't exist before. 20 students were waiting, some nervous, others skeptical. Among them were kids who once laughed at her, and kids who had stayed silent. Now they sat in a circle, notebooks open, no one quite sure how to begin. Maya stood at the front, no microphone, no script. "I'm not here to be a symbol," she said. "And I don't want pity. I want accountability. For all of us. Because what happened to me, it's not just about one director or one moment. It's about what we accept in silence. What we ignore." A boy raised his hand, the same one who'd once laughed when Coleman called her out. "Why did you come back?" She thought for a second. Because I refuse to let someone else decide where I belong. There was a pause, then a quiet clap. Then another. The room shifted. It wasn't about her anymore. It was about all of them. The turning point came a week later. The school had a tradition called Founders' Day, a ceremony to honor the original donors, usually attended by board members and legacy families. But this time, things were different. Maya was asked to speak. She almost said no. But Derek encouraged her. Say the thing no one else dares to say, he told her. So she stood on that stage, in front of a sea of perfectly dressed families and polished administrators, and she said this. My name is Maya Thompson. My father built systems that protect digital lives. But no system, not even the best software, can fix a mindset poisoned by prejudice. I was judged by how I looked, not who I was. And I was erased before I had a chance to speak. But here's the truth. Status means nothing. Wealth means nothing. We are nothing if we forget that we are all the same. We are all temporary, all fragile, and all capable of both cruelty and kindness. So, let's stop pretending some of us are more human than others. We're not. The room was silent. Not out of offense, out of recognition. She didn't smile as she stepped down. She didn't need to. She had said what mattered. Later that afternoon, she and Derek sat by the reflecting pool at the edge of campus. You did something today, he said quietly. No, Maya replied. We did. And maybe now they'll finally start seeing people before titles. He nodded, then smiled. The Ferrari worked, though. She laughed, finally. It really did. They sat together as the sun dipped behind the buildings, their reflections touching in the still water, not because of power or money, but because they had both chosen to stand up, not as a billionaire and his daughter, but as people. Just people. And in the end, that was the point all along. Thank you for listening to this story all the way to the end. Before you go, can I ask, where in the world are you hearing this from? Follow me for more videos.